Welcome to Bayou Bench and Beyond, where we take you inside the game and outside the lines. I'm Coach Maggio, and each week we sit down with coaches, leaders, and voices from across Louisiana and beyond to talk about the game, the grind, and the greater purpose behind it all. On this episode of Bayou Bench and Beyond, we're joined with a coach who just brought home the Class C state championship and has been leading with a purpose for over 2 decades. Coach Justin Howard is the head basketball coach at Plainview High School, where he spent the last 10 years, 6 with the boys, 4 with the girls program. A 1999 graduate of Plainview High School, Coach Howard is a hometown guy and played his high school ball under legendary coach Steve Wharton. His coaching journey spans 23 years and includes 6 years at East Texas Baptist University, 3 as an assistant, and 3 as a head coach, where he led the team to an ASC championship in 2007 with a 23-5 record. Coach Howard has now won state titles on both the girls and boys side in Class C, with the girls in 2010 and just this year in 2025 with a 29-3 boys squad. He's been named LSWA State Coach of the Year 4 times across 3 different decades. His coaching philosophy centers on servant leadership, and his teams buy in because he gives them ownership, involving his captains and players in key decisions to build trust, accountability, and belief. In his words, they'll play harder knowing they help decide. He credits mentors like Burt West and Michael Prather for helping shape his mindset, one that blends wisdom, reflection, and a willingness to hear other perspectives. Off the court, Coach Dustin is as busy as they come. Married to Kelly for 14 years, raising 3 kids, ages 9, 7, and 3, running a video production business, and yes, even going to law school. We're honored to have him join us today. Coach Dustin Howard, welcome to Bayou Bench and Beyond. Coach Dusty Howard here, guys. One of my guys, man. He and I have been together for a long time. I'm excited to see, what he's done with his career is pretty amazing. And we're going to talk about the journey of his state championship this year with the boys. But man, Coach, before we get started, man, I got to ask you. It's something I've been thinking about. And I even talked to Coach Jonette about it. So you're from there. You played there, you graduated there, and you have now won a state championship with the girls and the boys. I mean, man, I don't know anybody else that's done that. What's that feel like, man?
It's amazing. I hadn't really thought about all that in the totality until after it all got over with, and people started asking me, "Hey, you think anybody's?" And I was like, "I have no idea." But one thing I can say is I love Plainview, man. It's been great to me. You say as a player, I played, but I wasn't any good. I just threw the ball. I threw the ball to Sean Ashworth. That was a pretty good,
Smart.
former All American. So I was a smart player, I guess. It's been great, man. Like our community, it's a group of hardworking folks. A lot of people have several generations living here, and so it's definitely been really fun to share this experience with like everybody. People that play now, people that played when I first got to Plainview as the boys coach, my former girls players, been calling, texting, snapping, shout outs, and even the people that I played with in high school. I got to coach several of my teammates' sons. Man, it's been great.
Man, that's really neat. And the thing, Coach, a lot of just everyday person people, man, they don't realize how hard it is to win a state championship. I don't care if it's Class 10A, 1A, C, it's apples to apples, to win a state championship, man, it's hard. It's very hard and taxing, and it's a special thing, Um, but Coach, can you take us back to that final buzzer? What was going through your mind when Plainview locked up the 2025 state championship?
Man, it's a fast moment. Kind of wish I could go back and relive and actually enjoy it because it did come down all the way to the final buzzer. I think we were up. I think we were up four. I think we were up 4 points with about 5 seconds left, and at the time, did not realize that they didn't have any timeouts. I kind of was walking out there, and they threw the ball long, and it went out of bounds. It was like 1 second left, and it was a guy at the scores table. He was like, "Why don't you just bring your team over here and stand beside you and get ready to celebrate because they don't." And I was like, "Well, they hit a shot. They could call timeout before the buzzer goes off." And he was like, "They don't have any timeouts." And I turned and looked at my bench and said, "They don't have any timeouts." And uh, everybody was like, "No." And I was like, "Don't touch anyone." But it was crazy. It was surreal. Like, it was a surreal feeling. It was like one of them things that I don't know if it'll ever fully sink in. Uh, you
Right.
know how big it is for our community, and how awesome it was. I preach to the guys all the time, man. Like, they have put in the work over these last 6 years, no doubt. They have put in the amount of work, and I'm sure a lot of people in the state, have put in the same amount of work. But I preached to him, the night we made it to the tournament. That was kind of our goal to begin with, is to just make it there. It had been like 20 years, and I preached to him that, like, look, you need to be thankful right here on this night, because in life the reward always isn't seen right then. I was like, if we hadn't made it, I didn't have a speech prepared, but the reward hasn't always been, you know, everyone doesn't get to realize it, because I'm sure Pleasant Hill worked really hard. I'm sure Gibbsland and Georgetown worked really hard, and I know your guys worked really hard over the last however many years you've been at Reeves. And there can only be one winner, and we're really blessed that it was us this time.
Coach, I mean, what a run. At what point did you think, man, I think we have a team here that can really win this thing? I mean, was it early on coming in, and maybe speak to, I know you had one of your guys that you raised, is Zaquan. He leaves, he comes back. So can you kind of take us through that a little bit?
Well, the last 2 seasons, we've been on the cusp of getting there. We were in that select, non-select business, and Refuge Parish, being open enrollment parish, was classified select. So 2 years in a row, we've been put out the playoffs in the quarterfinals in close games by Rapides, and their enrollment is almost. I'm sure it's above 200, and ours is about 100. So uh, we always thought we had a team that could compete. And then, of course, Zaquan coming back this year, was a huge shot in the arm. Everybody was a year, bigger, faster, stronger. And then Zaquan shows up, a guy that, grew up in Plainview, and a guy that, I mean, man, Zaquan didn't even have to learn anything of what we did, because we've been doing the same thing for, 6 years now. So he just fell right in. And I can remember my principal asking me, because my principal, Brian Landry, wasn't around when Zaquan was around. I think this is his third full year. And he was like, "Man, y'all have great team chemistry. Y'all play really well together. This guy coming back, and he's supposed to be a really good player. Is he gonna disrupt that? Are you afraid of that?" And I was like, "Absolutely not." Like, I was never once afraid of Zaquan coming back in. Like, he came back in, he fell in like he was one of the guys. And to answer your question, when did I think we could win it? To be quite honest, probably about 10 seconds left in the game. I thought, hey, we might actually win this. I'm serious. My assistant
Yeah,
coach, Young, and he played for me, and he's a dreamer like I am. And he's been telling me, "Coach, we can win this. We can win this. We can win this." And I'm like, hey, I just want to make it there. The night before the quarterfinal game, I didn't sleep very well. I'm like tossing and turning, because I just thought in my mind, like, all of these years, and this window that we have, uh, you know, these seniors that we have. If we don't make it this year, I don't know what we're gonna do. I mean, we still got a lot of guys returning, but that
right,
last year
right.
was you know, the whole core group was still together, and that we started with. And so I didn't sleep very good that night. And after it was over with, and we made it to the state tournament, man, I slept like a baby every other night. The night before the state championship game, I was in my hotel room. I was doing law work till like midnight. I went to sleep. I slept straight, 8 hours straight, bro. Just did not,
Yeah,
I
from that point on, yeah, it's house money.
it's house money. That's exactly. And I
Right.
had to explain to my team what playing with house money was. But I think they believed. I know that
Yeah.
they believed. I talked to Zaquan early on, and it was the day of the Zawali game to open the season. And we know Zawali's tradition. They came down to Plainview, and they were going to be, and they made the state tournament and beat. I talked to Zaquan, and I said, in the hallway, I was like, "What you think tonight? You think we can beat them?" He looked me straight dead in the eye and said, "Coach, I expect to win every game."
I love it.
And I was, and I was like, "Oh Lord, well, good luck with that." And
Yeah,
we
yeah,
we won a lot of them.
yeah. I know that sucker there. He's a tiger too. He's a warrior. Kind of two fee. Uh, man, the semifinal game. We were pulling for you guys, our whole little team, and I talked to you a few days before, and you were like, "Man, coach, I think in the Hornbeck in the quarterfinal game, I think Fee does something to his ankle." And I'm not gonna lie, when you said you had to go against Gibbs and Coleman without Fee, I know you had Zaquan and your guys, and your culture's so good, and you guys were gonna play great. But I was thinking, man, that's a big piece. Ooh, that's gonna be an uphill battle, man. You guys were able to do it, man. So, kind of what happened to Fee, and what was all that process? What happened there?
Well, early in the Hornbeck game, it was the first quarter. He went up for a rebound and landed on a player's foot. I think he actually landed on Zaquan's foot, and he had a bad high ankle sprain. And the doctor told him 4 to 6 weeks. And man, it just if you see a community come together, they're heartbroken for that kid. And he got taken to several different trainers. I mean, he was missing school some to get some treatment. They tried everything. I can't even begin to tell you the things that they tried to rub on this guy to help the healing process. And honestly, people think that we were just downplaying it, but I didn't think he was going to play. If you told me he was going to play in the state championship game, I would have told you 0% chance. Just talking to him, and he uh, he kept his mind like he was like a coach on the court, off the court actually. He kept a great attitude during that Gibbs and Coleman game, even though he wasn't able to play. My assistant coach, I remember in the hotel the night before, he had told me he sat down and talked to him and said, "Hey, look, you need to be an assistant coach. You need to be the first one up when we do well. You need to be talking to the players on the court because he has been a leader for us for years now." And
Absolutely.
so, I mean, I think you can kind of say that we didn't have to play almost without him. He just wasn't on the court at the time because
So
if you go back and watch that game, man, he was all in 100%, coached just as hard as any of us did. And
right.
I told him before the game his responsibility was Zaquan to keep Zaquan calm on the court. So he's fussing because they're like best friends. But man, the night before and I guess going back to your question about the semifinals, man, did you see Kendon Markle and Caleb Calhoun step up? I mean,
Yes,
Kendon
I
Mark
did. I
Kendon
watched. I was
Markle
there.
Kendon Markle got was named player of the game, and he hit big shot after big shot. And Caleb Calhoun, I mean, is a guy that's came off the bench for us the whole season. I mean, he's a junior and he's a starter for just probably any other team in the state, Class
Right.
B, Class C. And he was comfortable in his role. I would jokingly call him the closer because when it got towards the second half, the end of the game, he would go in and never he would start, and when he goes in the game, he would never come out till halftime. I mean, he wouldn't start in
Right.
half, and as soon as he went in the third quarter, he never come out because Caleb could guard the 1 through the 5. He could play the 1 through 5 position. You don't ever have to wonder if he's doing what he's supposed to do. Caleb rebounds the basketball, and him and Kendon, dude, they're just winners. And of course,
Right.
Zaquan had a 20-20 double rebound, and I think Brennan Gidry hasn't played a whole lot all season long. He came off the bench, and I had a friend of mine said, "Hey, this the kid you brought off the bench, the sophomore, he played like 5-10 minutes. He had 9 rebounds." I was like, no way, he had 9 rebounds." I go back and pull up the stats. He played 7 minutes and had 9 rebounds, and like
Ooh,
five
man.
of the 9 were offensive. And I didn't realize
Yeah.
that, but I just think it was it's a team effort.
Right.
Everybody stepped up and made it happen because they really didn't want that guy's last game to be, watching on the bench. And
Right.
man, honestly, the four we drove down. Sam Houston hosted us and let us practice a couple times. Shout out to their head basketball coach. He hung out with us, and gave us his gym. And he the day that we were playing Thursday night. We tried Wednesday night. We had a little shoot around Wednesday night at Plainview, and he iced it. He rubbed some stuff on it and taped it up, and he tried to move around. And he was like, "Coach, it's a no go." And I'm like, and then Thursday, he tried to warm it up at shoot around Thursday evening before that Friday game, and I was over there with another friend of mine, a local attorney in Lake Charles, that came to speak to our team, Aaron Broussard at Broussard Knoll firm. He came and gave a shout out to our team, and said that he was supporting kind of an important guy in the community. It was pretty cool. And we were over there. We were over there getting ready for a free throw contest. Me and him was going to have, and he was like, "Man, that's the kid that's hurt." And I was like, "Yes, sir." And he's like, "He's moving around pretty good." And I was like, "He is, isn't he?" And so I walked over there and watched him move around, and I called him over there, and I was like, "Hey, how's it feel?" He's like, "Coach, it feels really good." I was like, "Really?" He said, and I said, "Well, look, sit down. It feels really good. You just go ahead and sit down." And so at breakfast the next morning, I pulled him aside and I said, "Hey, man, what do you think about today?" And he said, "I'll play if you put me in the game." And I was like, "Hey," and I said, "Well, look, I got to name the starters like 25 minutes before." I said, "So you won't be starting, but at first,
Right.
when you come off the bench, I want you to come off the bench firing. Let's see what you got." And he came off the
Right.
bench and hit a three right in front of Pleasant Hill's bench, and
Yeah.
it just kind of like everybody in the gym kind of knew, hey, it's on.
Right. Right. Yeah, I was
And it
there, and
was. I think he was.
yeah, I was there, and I've had to coach against Fee for 4 years now. Man, he's an ultimate competitor, tough. Lordy, he's something else. I knew when he didn't play in the semifinal game, I knew that it was something because I just obviously I don't coach him and I'm not around him like you are, but I just know what kind of grit he has and senior year and stuff. But I was just so glad to see that he was able to get out there too. Being from our area and our old district, and you guys.
Too.
Was
You're
there
you're old
anything?
school.
Yeah, yeah, man. Was there anything that you had, going into Silsboro, your point guard, your combo guard is out. Was there any type of minor adjustments that you had to make, or you just kind of do what you do and plug the next guy in, or what was your approach there in that semifinal game?
Well, we just kind of did what we did and plugged the next guy in and knew that we were going to be a little bit, just one player less deep. We didn't really
Mhm.
change anything offensively. Uh, we we knew that we weren't going to be able to press, and we likely wouldn't have been able to press them anyway. And we really didn't press much full court this year. We would trap some in the half court, but I guess the biggest change we made was probably not even a change because Nathan had gotten hurt. But coming into it, we played about 99% man to man all year long.
Mhm.
And
Right.
coming into it, we just looked at film and my assistant and I talked, and we just said, man, the way that those guys play, the way that Gibson plays, we felt like they're not going to be able to pressure us and speed us up. And
Mhm.
we were right about that. But I was like, man, it just screams zone, man. It just screams zone the way their personnel was, and they had a couple guys that we were afraid that could shoot the three, but when it kind of got down there, they did hit a few, but when it kind of got down there, they kind of took some bad threes and some long threes, and we got a bunch of
Right.
rebounds and it made it a little easier. And it wasn't until later on in the game, after we had a lead, that they really attacked with their big guy from the high post area, and he made a few buckets. But there was a little sequence at the end of that game where we kind of made a run. They made a run at us and cut it to like three or four, and then I think Kendon hit a shot to start the fourth quarter, and a three, and it pushed it back to like 7 or 8, and I think we got up about 9 or 10, and at like three possessions in a row, they shot quick, really long threes, and we got a rebound, and I think that was kind of so I do think that playing zone ends up now, looking back, was a smart thing, even though we hadn't really done it a whole bunch.
Right. I think that was a very smart move, and I think that says a lot. As you as a coach, because a lot of guys, we'll get hard headed and No, we're not going to play man or we're not going to play zone. I know guys that won't play a possession of man. And so, I think you did what was best that you thought for your team to put them in the best situation to win. And it obviously was a great move.
Well,
Um,
with Damian Martin, one of our seniors, he takes about 4 charges a game. So we have played
for
some
sure.
zone against bigger, more athletic teams here and there, just to show them something different. And we just talked, and I guess the final discussion was that, absolute worst case scenario, Damian is in the middle of the lane, getting ready to take charges all game, and Zaquan and Caleb are besides Nathan are our two best rebounders on the team, and playing zone. We made sure to put Nathan on the left side of the zone because most teams attack from the right, so that he could rip them backside rebounds down. So that was the final discussion, and we just went with it. And that's a testament to our guys, man. Like, we just told them, hey, we're playing zone. We think that's the best way to win, and they were like, cool, let's do it. And we just went on with
Yeah,
it.
just win. So let's talk a little bit about Pleasant Hill. Now, you guys have played them earlier in the season at your place, right?
Yes, sir.
And
Well,
then,
I think they had.
and that was,
I think their big kid didn't play that game. Also, the
oh,
tall number
really?
30 kid, Weisinger.
Right.
I think
Yes.
there was some paperwork issues that hadn't been completed just yet. It being that early, because I think he might have played a game or two after that. But
Okay.
so we didn't see him. And what a lot of folks really didn't know is that Kendon Markle was struggling with the backache. We were in cross country at the time, and we played a lot of games early, and he was having some back issues, man. And this dude was he was playing basketball and barely walking around school, man. Like that's a
Oh,
tough
wow.
kid too. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, he
Oh,
was
yeah,
barely
yeah.
walking around school. I think after the Pleasant Hill game, matter of fact, in our tournament the week before, we played 2 games on Friday night because of the regional cross country meet, and he didn't play in the final game versus picking that night. And so he was kind of like he wasn't himself, even though he played that night. And Zaquan
Right.
did foul out with about 3 minutes left in that game too. So it was nip and
Oh,
tuck the whole time. That one could have bounced either way. Uh,
right.
and I think we'd actually beat them in the summer without Zaquan before Zaquan
Okay.
got here. And so
Wow.
we knew we had a shot if we could play
Right.
our game for sure.
Right. So they actually, I mean, I guess you could say on paper, roster wise, they actually got better, when they pick up the 6'4" kid. Um, and when you meet them in the state championship. So going into the state championship, you had your film, Pleasant Hill, they was going to kind of do what they were going to do, right? So I mean, you guys, it wasn't like you were going to have any surprises at this moment. You knew they were probably going to play man to man and do that. What was your preparation and thoughts going into that championship game?
Well, as far as how they were going to guard us, you're right. We knew they were going to pick us up man to man, full court, and just try to pressure us. They knew that Nathan was, if he played at all, would be hobbled, and that we
Right.
would probably be not very deep because we really played about 6 kids the whole year uh, for the most part. And so I just knew that they were going to pick us up full court, and we wanted to play our speed. That that's the thing with small school basketball. And I got a friend that from the college ranks that just took a high school job, and I was just talking to him about the differences and stuff. And it's in Texas, so I don't know exactly how his area is, but like most people design what they do. All the better teams in the state, Class B and C, design what they do around disrupting the offense and disrupting.
That's
And
right.
so for 6 years now, we've been trying to win that game. Like for 6 years
Hmm.
now, we have been working on a conceptual offense with a lot of rules, and a lot of people make fun because it looks like we just run around and shoot threes a lot of times. But we've been really working to win that particular style of game, and so we really talked about it, and we've had a lot of experience playing against people that tried to speed us up and couldn't, or tried to speed us up and did, and we learned from it. And so like we wanted to make sure that them pressuring us full court didn't mean we had to come down and shoot a quick shot or whatever. We wanted to play our
Right.
speed, especially when we would get the lead, we were trying to get a quality shot because we really didn't have a lot of turnover problems. I think it was single digit turnovers in the
Right.
Gisland game, and I want to say we only had 11 in that game, which is a low number. And man, we had a game against man, I think it was against Oakdale this year where we only turned the ball over like 4 times, 5 times. And,
Wow.
you know, the type of athletes that they have and they pressured. And so, you know, that's one thing we really worked on is playing our speed against their, of course, defensively, we also played zone again, with the way they create turnovers. That's what they hang their hat on. They really the only time they run is off of a turnover. And so
Hmm.
we wanted to minimize turnovers to make sure we didn't give them easy buckets. And then we played zone, and we knew we had to match up if Ford went outside, which is their junior, their best player, a really good
Right.
player. When he went outside, we knew he could shoot the three, and we knew a couple of the other guys could shoot too. And so we tried to match up with shooters while take away, and we just wanted to make them score 2 pointers to beat us, and we wanted to make them earn every bucket. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't turn it over and get them a run out. We wanted them to come down, kind of like the playoffs in the NBA in the '90s. It used to be
Yeah.
everybody walks the ball in the court and grinds it out, and so especially with Nathan, not being able to move like he could, we knew that we needed to win a
Right.
game that we
Right.
grinded out. And I think that's one of the things that surprised people is that they've seen the games where we would go score 90 on Gina and hit 19 threes, and we scored 90 on Georgetown and could have been more than that at homecoming night. And we have some of those games like that. Pineville made us play fast there at the end of the year, and we scored 70, 80 on them. And but I think what surprised people is they didn't realize that we could also play the other way, and that just speaks to the versatility and the IQ of the players on the court. Because man, once you get out there on that big court, it's left up to the players to make decisions. You can't coach them from there. You could tell them what you want to do. You can call a play or whatever, but they got to be the ones to do it. And that's something I think I've done over the years as a coach. Is people call me a players coach, and I think sometimes people view players coach in a negative connotation, as in you just let the players do what you want. But like, why wouldn't I give a kid like Nathan Fee, we call a play that's a high pick and roll and it clears that whole side. Why wouldn't I let that guy who has played 50 basketball games a year since he was a seventh grader in the varsity level, why wouldn't I let him have the power to refuse that ball screen if the man cheats and just go because he makes a better
Absolutely.
decision? And so I give some of those guys ownership of the team, and and if I call a play and they see something awesome, we coach that. It's not, and I don't
Right.
view that as I don't view that as them doing something I'm not told, because that's something that we work on. Like, if you see this
Yeah.
happen,
Exactly.
feel free to turn down that screen, and then we'll try to do this. And there's been a lot of times during the game. And look, it's not always perfect. And the play that I
Right.
call, or the inbounds play, I handed over all the inbounds to my assistant coach just to get that off my plate, and he really took pride in creating new inbounds plays and all that. And his plays,
Right.
sometimes they would work, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they would
Yeah.
win the game, and sometimes it'd be tough. So I just think those,
Right.
having those guys like Nathan and Ken and Zaquan and Caleb, and those older guy Damian, to be able to make decisions on the court and be informed, you know, is
Right.
huge, because the
Right.
game happens on the court, man. It's a fast game. It's not like football.
For
You don't get
sure.
to run a play and then talk about it for 30 seconds. You
But
just got to go.
you got to go, and like you said, you guys, you've prepared them that way. You've coached them that way, and a lot of times, the fans, from outside looking in, they don't really understand conceptual basketball. So they're still stuck in that joystick mode where you got to turn it, turn it, turn it. So they're thinking, because I love conceptual as well, to where we teach kids the concepts, allow them to explore and get better through play, and like you said, make great reads, and so they're always right, hopefully. And so, I've even had some of that. Well, coach, you don't run anything. They're just out there just playing around. And I'm thinking, actually, that's what we want it to look like. We want it to look like good spacing and movement, and them making reads. And it should look like a unbelievable pickup game, because we've trained our kids how to play, and they know how to play. So
It's funny
yeah,
that you say
that's
that.
what I
It's
think.
funny that you say that, because we do we do play some unbelievable pickup games. And look, I'm old and slow, and
That's,
three 4 years ago, when these guys were tiny and not very fast, like, I could get out there and stand around and walk around and do some tricks and hit some shots. But
yeah,
uh, and not anymore, dude. we play a little bit in PE at the end of the year, and sometimes involve the girls, and I try to get out there and just walk around just for some exercise. But goodness gracious, the way they
Right.
move the ball now, cannot compete.
Yeah.
Cannot compete.
Right.
My assistant coach is like
Right.
22 years old, and so he's only 4 years removed, and boy, he struggles chasing them too. So it's
Right.
it's a thing of beauty when they play, and I mean they're on the court, man. Why shouldn't they make the decisions? And I think that's where it goes. Like, I mean, our general
Mhm.
philosophy. I tell people call me and be like, "Hey, what's the secret? How do you get them to shoot like that? How do you get them to play
Yeah.
like that?" And I'm like, "Look, my general philosophy is if we get the ball off the rim and we can get a wide open three or a layup, obviously we're always looking for a layup, but if we don't get that, if we get
Right.
a wide open look in transition, we're going to take it because if we make it, it's 3 points. If we miss it, it's not a turnover. We actually got a shot at at the goal. And honestly, the way basketball is, like, do you work on boxing out in transition?
No.
Like, what
Nobody
coach
does.
breaks the game down to box out assignments in transition? And so,
No.
I think that, and we practiced this, and it's kind of like a privilege that I take away from it. If we're not offensive rebounding on those threes that we shoot in transition, then I'll tell them we can't shoot them anymore, right? And so they're like, no, 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 we want to shoot
Right.
them because, like, you got somebody like Fee, perfect example, perfect example. We're at Elton. You were at the game, I think, right?
Mhm. Yeah, we
At
were, yeah.
Elton, yeah. And so Fee starts that game 0 for 7 from three in the first quarter.
Right.
They just weren't gardening. They were in zone. They weren't gardening. And like you say, the general fan doesn't realize that if you're a team built like us and they're in zone packed in the lane and you're not creating turnovers and you're not hitting threes, like I always tell my kids, the best way to break a zone is to get the ball up the court and shoot and get the ball up the court before the zone sets up. And the number two best
Right.
way to break a zone is to shoot the three really well. Now after that, then
That's
you got
it.
to run offense. You got to have post people
Mhm.
that can score a little bit in there and all that. And like
Right.
we're a smaller team overall. Our biggest kid was our point
Right.
guard, Zaquan. You know, and
Yeah.
we didn't want to move him into the post. And so
Right.
that night, Nathan was 0 for 7 or 0 for 8 in the first quarter, and it's a close game at the end of the
Remember.
first quarter. And like, of course, all the peanut gallery, and rightfully so. They're like, "Hey, do something different. Get the ball inside.
Yeah.
Try to shoot a layup." And I get it. I mean, I agree with all of those things. But
Yeah.
what I also try to do is I told Nathan, "Hey, look, you will play like we play because that's how we're trained to play. We can't just
Mhm.
change the way we play." And dude ends up making 9 threes in that game.
Right, right. It
You
takes
know, it
sometimes it just takes time.
yeah, he comes out midway through the second quarter and hits 5 before halftime. And all of a sudden he shoots 50% from the game. He's like 9 of 17 or something, shoots 55%, and those miss it. And it's a running clock 35-point game in the third quarter. So,
Right.
you got to sell the kids on this is how we can win, and you got to just keep their mind on it because you can't just come change who you are, and especially
Right.
not in the middle of the game. Even if it's great, even if it is a great basketball move to try to change, you can't just draw up something else that you hadn't practiced and expect
Yeah,
to do it
because
well.
those right. Right, at our level, that just those kids, some can and some can't, and then you get off on that because I've done that before, and all of a sudden you're in the middle of, doing things that the kids just don't understand what you're trying to tell them, and so
Yeah,
you gotta kinda, like you said, stay at it. This is what we do. It's gonna come around, uh, and stuff.
you got to give kids
So
confidence to fail. You know,
that's right.
I don't bite their heads off for shooting a confident long three whenever they thought they were hot. And so I think that's also in shoe. We shot 31% on the season from three, which is you know which is I think is great for a high school program.
Yeah,
Uh,
for high school
but
for sure. Yep.
with our best three shooters shooting almost 40% from three, which is elite for high school shooters. And so,
Right.
I just think the confident. I think that's the biggest thing that we do is nobody's afraid to shoot the three. Nobody's afraid
Right.
to take a shot. They shouldn't be, you know.
Mhm.
And I think that just gives them
So
confidence that hey, coach is not going to kill me if I miss this.
right. So I can shoot this thing. So, coach, you've been there. This is your second stint there. You just finished up your seventh year there. This was your
Six
seventh
years,
year back or 6 year back.
six.
So going into seven. Okay, so when you got there, you pretty much took this crew from when they were young, right? And this was the
That's right.
group that you kind of built up. And so over the years, can you tell us, is there any stories you can think of, or Was there any times that you had to get on their butts, and did you ever have any trouble buying with them, or any stories like that?
Well, the
Because
first
I know
thing
the
is my assistant coach, Blaine Perkins, was a sophomore. He was going into his sophomore season,
that's
and
right, that's
we
right.
had we had one senior that had never played before, and all he did is take charges. He was really good at it, but he averaged like point 0.1 points a game. And honestly, when he would show up to practice, he would mess with the little guys so much that it would disturb practice. So towards the end of the year, we stopped. We telling him, "Nah, don't come back for last hour, buddy. Just stay home. You got to handle." And we had zero juniors, and we had two freshmen, and one of the freshmen tore his ACL like the first week of school as a freshman. So, uh, and he and so we really had three legitimate high school players on that team. And I can remember, one Blaine was always a leader, even as a sophomore going into a sophomore year. He was like the daddy of the team, man. Like those kids looked up to him. Isn't it very strange how this guy, at 21 years old, as soon as he's eligible to be an assistant coach by the LHSAA, like these kids respond to him as an assistant coach, and they're only 3 years younger than him. Like it's just been amazing
Right.
like that. Like literally in the beginning, it'd be a faculty meeting or something, and I would leave him in the gym, and I would turn our little NFHS camera on, and I would tell him if they don't listen to you, run those suckers. And I'd pull up
Yeah.
the camera while I was in the faculty meeting, and they'd be in there running suicides, and he'd be in there coaching them, and they really did respond. So it's kind of amazing to have someone with such
Right.
leadership qualities his age. I really don't think this happens without him, honestly, and I hope he knows that because I mean we can't pay
Man.
him a whole lot, but
Right.
the
Right.
one story I can remember, Dallas Harrison, our what they call the heart and soul of our team.
Yeah.
Those kids follow him. He's such an amazing human being, and he plays with all his heart. And he was he was young, going into I want to say he was going into seventh grade when I got there that summer. And that summer, I knew we were going to have issues scoring the ball because we were so tiny. I knew whatever we did on defense wasn't going to matter because we weren't going to be able to get rebounds. So we were just going to play zone and put Blaine in the middle. He was our only full size kid, and just hope for the
Right.
best, right? And I knew we were going to have trouble scoring. And honestly, so coach, we went down to play Evans in a scrimmage back when Daniel Fletcher was in Evans, right? Daniel
That's
Fletcher
right.
Jr.
Right.
And so we went down there and we played, just like a normal scrimmage. Like we're not nobody can foul out. We're not going to shoot free throws. Really, we're just going to
Yeah.
play running time. And so we
Right.
played. We played a JV game, and it was the JV was my varsity, so it was all right. It was back and forth. The game was probably 9-7 or something like that. We come time for the
Yeah.
varsity game. We go out there early in the first half of the varsity game. Blaine, feels like he was getting fouled or something, and there was like some, a tie up and some elbows slung, and so the referee comes and tells me, hey Blaine, you take this guy out and you need to calm him down. So I took Blaine out and I fussed him. I said, look, you can't do that. You're only high school player basically. You can't do that. So you done for the night. So I sat him down. You done for the night. Well, so we keep playing. It's halftime, and We're in there, and I'm like, all right, guys, like the score. I don't know what the score is, but it don't seem like either team scoring very much. Was this probably like 19-5 or something like that? And Dallas Harrison raises his hand and says, "Coach, we haven't scored." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Surely somebody's made a free throw or something hadn't scored." And we all started looking around like, "Have you scored? Have you scored? Did you score before you got put out the game? Have you scored?" And everybody's like, "No." So we go out there and check at halftime, and it's 19-0. I was like, "Oh gosh,
Really.
like we haven't scored. We haven't scored." And so then it got weird. And he played his varsity. He's pressuring our little guys, man. And like, they're not keeping the score on the scoreboard. So I'm sure he didn't know. And so we play the game.
Yeah.
We play the game all the way down to the end. And coach, end of the game, it's 46-0. So this group of kids that are now state champions literally played that scrimmage, a varsity scrimmage, and got beat by Evans 46-0.
Man,
And
that is
I remember Miss
remarkable.
Rasmussen calling me in. Miss Rath called me in and said, "Coach, I'm gonna have to get you a Christmas card or something because I knew it was gonna be bad because y'all were gonna be so young, but I didn't know it was gonna be this bad." And I was like, "No, man, we're gonna be okay. Just we'll be all right."
We're
And
gonna be
so
all right.
a couple months later, we played Evans in our I don't know if it was in our tournament, but it was pretty early, like November, December time, somewhere around in there. we played Evans and they jumped out on us or whatever, and we were scoring and stuff, and it was like a 8-9 point game at halftime, and for whatever reason, I guess Evans, maybe was worried. They might have been in foul trouble, I don't know, but they came out and held the ball, came out and went Eagles nest or whatever he calls it, right? And so they started holding the
Yeah.
ball and slowing the game down, and so we kind of like stole the ball and hit a three, and the momentum kind of shifted. And coach, it was a game, and I'm telling you, we had a wide open look at three to win the game. And you can go look,
Oh,
you can go
man.
look at the you go look at the past LHSA scores, and you can find it. The game was in the 50s, and we almost beat those suckers that same year. So like
God,
these young
what
kids,
a
these young kids, they were winners when I got here. I always shout out to all the people that's coached them, and they might leave people out, but Caleb Calhoun's dad, I know Kendon's dad, Kendon's uncle Jeremy. Like there's been people coach those age groups through the years, and I'm telling you, they were winners then. All I had to do is just keep them together, give them skill, give them what I could give them with strategy, and find the best
right,
way to get the most out of them and not screw it up, because those kids were winners. And I mean, something like that proves it. I can remember when
right.
that first summer we didn't work on defense at all, like because I knew we were going to have
Yeah.
trouble scoring, like. And so, like, Blaine would come to me and be like, Coach, we never going to work on defense. All we do is work on offense. I'm like, that's going to be fine. Like, we're putting this conceptual offense in, and I'm making them make these decisions and these basketball reads and stuff. And I can remember one day specifically that I got on them pretty hard because it just weren't going very well. They weren't understanding. I'm like, I'm getting on them hard. Like, I mean, I've coached junior high kids before, but not at the varsity level, honestly. And so I circled them up, and I'm like, look, guys, I know y'all give me all you got. I really appreciate it. This is going to be a long process. You just got to hang in there. I said, I know, we're doing stuff that I did whenever I was a college coach, and doing stuff that I did whenever I coached seniors. And I said, y'all are like 12, 13 years old. And, and I was going on talking, and Dallas Harrison raised his hand. And I was like, what, Dallas? He said, Coach, I'm 11. I was like, what? I was like, what? He said, I'm 11 years old, coach. And I was like, thanks, Dallas. Okay, 11-year-old. So I mean, this dude was 11
Yeah,
years old, and he was playing varsity ball. I mean, I can remember
right,
Kendon, Nathan, and Dallas were all under 100
right,
pounds out there playing
right,
varsity basketball. So it's
right,
really been a
right. So, um, like the community. So how has the community reacted to the state championship run? I mean, how
uh,
excited are the parents and the people? I mean, because it's been years since they've won a state title. I know back in the day with OD, it was unbelievable. And then Coach Wharton has some great teams, but, it's been a
man. How
long
cool? How first of all, how cool would it be if
time. Oh,
OD was still
man.
alive, man, and
That'd be
Coach
wonderful.
Wharton, man.
And
I
Coach
thought
Wharton.
about that. I think about Coach Wharton from time to time, when something big in basketball happens, because I mean, he's somebody I used to call, hey, bro, we just won the conference championship. Hey, we just beat somebody at the buzzer or whatever. And like, he died a young man, and
Right,
I
right.
lost that, and the so I mean, I just think how cool would it be? What would Coach OD say? I know when we
Yeah.
won the state champion. I know when we won the state championship, OD, came up. OD would come drink some coffee with us or whatever, and he put my
Oh,
arm
yeah.
around him. He was like, Coach, I'm proud of you. And I was like, well, thank you, Coach. And he said, but girls state championships don't count. I was like, what? What?
I can
And he
hear
was
it.
like, and he said, he said, look, man. He said, go down to the LSSA, look at my plaque. And he said, I got 7 softball girls state championships and a girls state runner up. And I told him, don't put that on my plaque, man. And he was laughing, but kind of serious. It's a different time,
Oh,
right?
did you? Oh,
And
yeah. Different
but
time, different time.
he flipped it around. He flipped it around, obviously, to say, he was proud, and it was the first girls state championship, and then we talked ball. But I mean, he was kind of joking, not joking, right?
Right.
And he was, and I know Coach Warden would be proud. But as far as the community, man, like let me pull something up if I can.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
and so as soon as it's over with, everybody's like, of course, man, y'all got to get these rings, man. Got to get these rings, and so of course, my principal was like, look, just get with the guys, find out what they want, order them. We'll deal with it. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And so I know this may be a little boring, but I think it's worth a shout out to all the people that donated. George
Yeah, for
Johnson,
sure.
our school board member, the volunteer fire department, the Max Out lawyer, Mr. Paul and Carolyn Willis donated. Mr. David and Sonia Rasmussen, Jackrabbit Nursery, Rock and R Construction, one of my old teammates. Lansing Cobb, somebody that only knows a couple of the kids on the team and lives in Alexandria. Miss Harper, one of our teachers, Vargas Nursery, Miss Ann Brewer, Mark and Trina
Wow.
Hawkins, John and Melinda Caruth, Sean Rookie Johnson, my assistant coach at Oakdale, Coach Gene Edwards from Harrisonburg, called me up and
Wow.
said, Coach, how much are the rings, Coach? And I was like, man, I think they're about 200. He said, I'm buying yours. And I was like, man, you ain't got it. He's like, I'm buying yours, Coach. I'm buying yours. And so he drove down here and ate lunch with me at the pit stop, man, from Harrisonburg.
Man, that's
Uh,
awesome.
Jeremy Johnson. Jeremy Johnson coached these kids when they were young. He coached their AAU team and did all kind. I'm like, Jeremy, I don't want your money, dude. You've done enough. And he forced me to take his money.
Yeah.
Coleman and Wilma Fee, Bronk Fee, Robin Fee, Holloway's Nursery, uh, Giles Cattle, Michael's Nursery, uh,
My gosh.
ELE Construction, the Sherman Place event venue, Derek and Leela Thrasher, Impact Advertising, and BK Distributors. We told them in LA, like, hey, let's get this band championship banner made. And like, Coach, you ain't got to pay for it. We're gonna donate this banner.
Man.
It's been wild, and we set up just a couple weeks ago. We got just a couple weeks ago. We had a ring ceremony, and I don't know if you can see it.
Man,
Yeah, we had
those are
a
beautiful.
we had a ring
Beautiful.
ceremony, and we were setting up, kind of figuring out like what are we gonna do. There's a trophy right there. Like, what are we gonna do with this ring ceremony? Just call them in and be like, all right, guys, y'all stand up, get the trophy, and we got the banner too. And I went and set it up in the gym or whatever. Mr. Landry showed up, and I was like, I probably won't be just the kids and their parents. And he was like, no, Coach, I think there's gonna be more people come. And we had that whole big side of the gym almost full with people just
Wow.
there to see them get their rings. Man, it's been unbelievable. It really has. And
That's
I
awesome.
try to explain to friends in other states, they don't get it. Like, this is our football. Like,
Yeah.
just think if Ash would have finished that state championship ball, how huge that would have been for Alexandria. Since Reppi's Paris hadn't won one in a long time or ever. I mean, just think it's like that, and
Right.
it's been
100%.
the outpouring. Like when we went down there, the people that had people knocking each other down trying to feed us. Man, like we couldn't eat enough food. It's just been amazing, and it's been a very humbling experience because you always know that the community builds these kids and the community's always supported us. And I mean, you just think back to the beginning. We actually talked about it with Mr. Daryl Harrison before when I first got there. Jeremy Cedars, one of our referees, we were having a pack meeting. And we were talking about the
Yeah.
girls' game and stuff. And he was like, as for the boys' game, he was like, well, people really don't stay for the boys' game, Coach. And he didn't mean it negative. Like, he really didn't, but and he
Yeah,
wasn't
just
wrong. He
yeah.
wasn't wrong, and so we in the beginning I had to, I would fight with them kids because they would see. I mean, Tuesday night at 9 o'clock, man. If it was a blowout, them people was going home going to sleep.
Yeah.
And I told them, I said, look, it's not that they're not supporting you, not at all. That ain't what it is. You got to give them a reason to stay. Like, so
Right.
our goal started being make this a ball game at halftime. Let's see how many people stay, and
What we
people
can
starting to
say.
stay in, and
Absolutely.
now you ain't got to worry about it with the level of the boys and the girls programs are right now.
Right.
Our games are well attended even on the
For
road,
sure.
so very appreciative with how much support.
For sure. Well, Coach, man, I got to go into this little rapid fire here. We got to have that at Bayou Bench and Beyond. So we're gonna hit you with a few questions here before closing. Uh, favorite pregame music that you listen to?
Me, oh
Yeah.
Lord Jesus, man, I'm
I know,
old.
I know, I know. Hey, I know. Back in the day, man, we was G'd up, man. So I didn't know if
Well,
it was still.
I'm old, and so
Yeah.
mainly for home games. My drive to the gym is about 3 minutes long, 4 minutes long, and so I do have a song that I listen to, and it's I guess it just gets me in the right mind frame, and I know you can appreciate it, but it's "Me Against the World" by Tupac.
Oh yeah, that's love.
As
Love.
coaches, we always kind of in our mind invent adversity and stuff like that.
Right.
So like I know it's not me against the world here at Plainview,
Right.
but for
Just gotta
motivation,
get your juices flowing.
That's right. That's right. So it's kind of become a superstitious tradition at this point. But me against the
Yeah.
world by Tupac.
So, what's the most underrated skill in high school basketball?
Most underrated skill in high school basketball. Man, I just think I guess the most underrated skill because I mean you got people that can shoot it, people that can dribble it. I guess the most underrated skill in high school basketball would have to be rebounding.
Yeah.
Some people have a knack for it, some people don't.
Yeah.
And I just think about my team, and we've got a couple kids that can rebound, and a couple kids that we can't understand how they're not getting more rebounds. And so,
Yeah.
like a Caleb Calhoun, does he's a great rebounder for his size, and I'm like, is he a great rebounder because it's kind of like Charles Barkley. How do you did
Right.
you box out awesome? Like every kid on your team and my team both, they know exactly how to box out. Like if you told them for
Right.
$1,000,
Yeah.
show me
Yeah.
how to close out, raise shot, hit, turn, box out. Every one of them can do it. So why isn't
Mhm.
every kid an elite
Yeah.
rebounder,
Yeah.
right? And so I think
Exactly.
that's an underrated skill. That's what I'm
I
gonna
can
go
see
with.
that for sure. All right, and here's the last of my favorite right here. I'm going to ask everybody: who's the best coach you ever faced off against?
Oh, Lord, geez, that is a tough question. You should have told me that beforehand, man. That's a tough question.
There's so
Can I say
many,
like
bro.
can I say like two or three people?
Yeah, sure.
Well, first of all, you know who I can't beat? You know who I cannot beat?
Who's that?
I can't beat anybody that Jeremy Cross is an assistant for.
Jeremy's got to listen to this.
I can't
Jeremy,
beat anybody. Bro,
Jeremy.
I'm telling you, we struggled to beat Elizabeth when he was Irby's assistant at Elizabeth. And,
That's
and,
funny.
and and even there was one year that we did beat them one year, but there was one year that we played them at their place, and like we beat them easily at our place, and I think it's because Jeremy being such a good friend, he knows how I think, and he know I
Yeah,
just he and then he's at Hicks helping Neil. We
he's a
can't beat
hit.
them suckers, man. We can't beat them.
Yeah.
That was one of our three losses this year. We just can't beat them.
Oh man.
Somebody from way back that I think is I don't know if he's an underrated coach from way back, but Jason Jagno, geez, man, like
Yeah.
who's a
Jason,
smarter coach than that guy?
man, very good coach.
Like
Very.
uh, Chris Kilsmeyer, he's a guy
Yeah.
that coached Howard Payne women. He
Oh
took
yeah.
I don't even know where he's at right now, but the year we won the conference championship in '07 that I was a assistant for, they won they ended up winning the tournament and going and we never beat them guys. Never even came close. I mean,
That's
we
crazy.
we lost like a 2-point game to A&M Commerce that year, and they went to the Division II Final Four. Like we had those suckers beat at their place,
Yeah.
and we can't
Right.
even come close to beating Howard Payne in those days. And
Right.
Chris Kilsmeyer, he ended up winning a national championship the very next year in
Wow.
'08, and then he ended
Wow.
up going to some Division II school, and like 3 years later, leading the nation in defensive field goal percentage and won a national championship there. So I don't know where he's there, but he may be king of the whole basketball earth. And
Right. Right.
I always tell people if somebody told me to coach USA basketball or something, and I got to bring some high school coaches with me, I would bring Kyle Jinks and tell
Yeah.
him I'm just gonna. I would bring Kyle Jinks and tell him I'm just gonna sit over here in the stands and
Yeah.
coach.
I'm
You do
gonna sit
whatever
over
you
here.
want to.
Yeah.
You do
And
whatever
that's
you
real.
want to. So I guess for me, and I mean, very few people actually know this that I actually sat on the bench with Kyle Binks for one year, my first year,
Right.
full year of coaching.
Yeah.
And
I do that.
when I say sat on the bench, I mean I didn't do anything. I sat on the bench
Yeah.
and watched
Learn,
watched
soak
it.
it up.
Oh yeah, and watched in awe of how he does things. And I think what
Right.
he does and how he does it, I don't think it's reproducible by anybody. Man, I just think
Right.
he's got it. I think that he's probably and I know this sounds crazy to say, and I've told him to his face, and you know how humble coach is. Coach is like, nah, man, I just work hard. I've been blessed,
Yeah.
blah, blah,
Oh yeah.
right? And I get that too, but like, I mean, who can argue that he's not the best high school basketball coach ever to walk around the earth?
No, that's true.
Who?
Coach Jonette, Mark Jonette says it all the time. He said, Coach, I mean, look, per capita, where he's at, what he's done, he's like, I mean, it's got to be up for conversation. And
What the leading high school coach ever has won like what 13, 1,400 games, I guess maybe. If he
yeah,
coaches in if he coaches if he coaches for 30 years even, and some of those guys I bet coach for 40 or 45, this guy
Right.
might win, be like a a Ricky Bobby quote. He might
Yeah.
win 3, 4, 5,000. I don't know. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
it's true.
I'm sure I'm
But coach,
forgetting somebody. So
yeah. But coach, before we wrap it up, man, you had an incredible run this year and a career filled with leadership moments on and off the court. If there's one message you'd want your players, your community, and your coaches listening across the state to take away from your journey, what would that be?
I guess the way I try to lead is I call myself. I read a Tony Dungy book a long time ago, and so I call my leadership style instead of a player's coach a servant leader. Like I'm the head coach. I get it, but I don't view myself as the authoritative, like we're going to do it this way because I said so type. So I would think that you do what's best for the players. You love them, you treat them. One thing I always tell them is like the guy you see, that's the guy I am. I'm not being fake. The good, the bad, and I think that's kind of what kids can see through that anyway. But I
Right.
think that they see my flaws. I talk about my flaws. Uh, but I try to be the same person every single day. And when they see me on the street 15 years from now, I'm going to be the same person. Uh, I think that I treat my players well. I think that's one reason they play hard for me. They know that they're involved in the process. They know that they didn't have to wait to hear me give them credit. They knew exactly what I was going to say. Those guys deserve everything that came to them, and I'm just glad that I could be a part of it. But I would just say, man, serve these players, teach them life lessons, be honest with them at all times. Try to be a great role model for them. Like I remember one time during the athletic banquet, somebody told me after it was all over with, they said, "Coach, I don't understand you a lot of time." And it's somebody who knows some basketball. Coach, I don't understand you a lot of time. I don't understand you as a person. Because I'm a little different. I mean, I drive a Tesla in Plainview. People think I'm weird, right? But I grew up here. I don't hunt. I don't fish. Like, and I grew up in Plainview. Like, people just think I'm just, just odd, I guess. But I don't understand you as a person. I don't understand you as a coach half the time because I mean, we were throwing three balls at the rim in 2008, man. Like before it was cool, right? And people definitely didn't understand that. But uh, they don't understand you. I don't know why you do the things you do. I would do everything that you do completely different if it were me, but your way works. And I would say, I mean, and that was huge to me because I mean that was the probably the best compliment is that your way works. And I would say that my way is just being yourself, being honest, sharing the sharing the success with everybody, taking all the blame, just
Right.
working hard. Like I told him, I said, when I told that story at the athletic banquet to kind of close the athletic banquet out, I'm like, I don't see it as my way works. I see it as our
Hmm.
way works because like
Yeah.
regardless of what people think, like I'm from Plainview, born and raised here, and like what our way is Plainview's some underdogs, man. We just are, and
Hmm.
it's nothing about the character or the way we were raised or anything like that. But everybody in Plainview is just hardworking blue collar folks. Like
Sure.
you just drive around Plainview, and you've got people that work off. They bust their tail for their family. You got people that have three jobs. They raise cattle. They work off. They haul dump trucks. And I mean, just you've got people that's you know this went to college and educated. Like our school is amazing, and most everybody at our school went to Plainview. A
Right.
lot of people, at least, so like I think it's our way, man. I really
Hmm.
do, and
Right.
our
Right.
way is to not make excuses, to just hide and practice and work hard. If you want something, you just put your head down and work, and you get it. And like, there's no doubt that these guys' parents that I grew up with are already successful in life, and have raised amazing kids and
Right.
their kids, I never had to beg them to get in the gym. I never had to ask them to go hard. Like it's really a blessing to be at somewhere like this where you don't have to worry about, hey, I'm going to need you
Hmm.
to go harder. You never had to say that. They're going to go hard because they want to achieve, and they believe because they're taught by their parents, their coaches growing up, everybody in the community, their grandparents even, like they're taught that you want something, you just got to put your head down and work. And I think that's the best thing about this community, and that's the best thing I could say is if you
Right.
could, people like I heard in another podcast, people talk about culture. A lot of people talk about culture, but then they don't create the culture they want. Well,
True.
it's a beautiful thing because at Plainview, it wasn't very hard to. It's more fall into the culture at Plainview, not
Yeah.
necessarily create it. Is
Mhm.
you know, that's one of the complaints when I took over the job. They were like, "Hey, our girls practice way more than our boys. We need to get in the dang gym." Like,
Yeah.
I ain't never heard a
Yeah.
parent say that we practice too much.
Yeah. No, no, that's for sure.
So I mean, and that's the beautiful thing.
Right. Coach Justin Howard, everybody, Class C state champs, servant leader, and Plainview Hornet through and through. We appreciate your time, your story,
M-
and your
Mini
heart for the
trophy.
game. That's right. Thanks for joining us here on Bayou Bench and Beyond, where we go inside the game and outside the lines. Coach, I can't tell you how much it means to me for you to come on. We've known each other for so long, and
We
you
forgot to
know,
tell these people that we coached together in 2009. Man, my first
coach
year
together.
at Plainview, my first year at Plainview Girls was your last year at Plainview Boys, and man, you had several
Yeah,
30 win seasons at Plainview Boys back in
yeah, we
those
had a
days,
good
man.
time, man. It seems like yesterday, So
It was not, Coach. It was
I
not
know.
yesterday.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Coach, man, hey, thanks for being on. I'll definitely be in touch. And so, thanks again.
Yes, sir. See you, Coach.